Use the trim to hold your elevator position so that you don't have to do so much work.
Okay.
There, now you're getting about 500 feet a minute. And, oh, my controls.
You have it.
This is it. This is the day I finally begin training for my private pilot certificate. Hey, boss.
Hi, how are you?
Ready to do this?
I'm ready. Let's do this. Let's go flying.
It's not the first flying lesson I've ever taken, not by a long shot. I've logged time with other CFIs, that's certified flight instructors, on a number of occasions in the past. The first time was in 1989 on the eve of my 13th birthday. My father had gotten his first flying lesson when he turned 13, and he wanted to do the same for me. Hold on. This was it. This is the first logbook I ever had. 0.9 hours in Cessna 152. It was 778 Mike Echo right there. Turns, climbs, descents, straight and level, tracking our road and taxiing. I couldn't believe they let me fly the airplane like on my first flight. I even did the takeoff. Badly, I remember, but I was at the controls and it was me. Like that was the thing. I've had several opportunities to log time since then. And many, many more opportunities just to fly as cargo. In fact, here's a few examples. Yeah, man. I've done me some pretty cool flying, but this is the first time I'm taking lessons for a certificate. Now, most people who are considering a pilot certificate start off with a discovery flight.
All right, so control your pitch a little bit better. So just try to look outside and try to keep the airplane flat so you're not climbing and descending.
Okay.
Just stay at 1,500 feet. Just take one hand off the yoke. Just relax. You can leave it here if you want it there.
If you are even remotely interested in becoming a pilot and have never been in a little airplane, I highly recommend you find a local flight school and sign up for a discovery flight. Since I've been around airplanes nearly all of my life, Derek and I didn't really do a discovery flight. I know that this is what I want to do. In fact, during one of the test flights where Derek and I were trying out various camera angles, he made a comment that no one would believe I've never flown in an airplane before. Check it out.
It's going to be hard to convince these people that you haven't had any flight experience at all.
No, I'm not going to try to convince them. I'm going to tell them I have a lot of flight experience. I'm still not a pilot.
So yeah, I have a lot of flying experience, and I'm not trying to come across as a complete newbie to aviation. But let me be clear, I am not a pilot. Throughout this training, you will see plenty of evidence showing my shortcomings. I'm going to be learning to fly the same way as anyone else. We all have to start right here at the beginning. And maybe one day...
You will be a pilot. You'll be a pilot instructor.
That's my goal.
All right. So let's get started.
Good morning.
Morning.
How you doing, David?
I'm ready to go flying.
You ready to do this?
Yeah, man, let's do it.
Okay, cool. So
Lesson one.
lesson one, your first flight. So we are going to be flying a Cessna 172 today, here around the Melbourne area. We are going to go up and do what we call basic flight maneuvers.
Before each lesson, Derek and I will brief the flight. During the briefing, we will discuss the objectives we intend to cover on that lesson.
To the controls to get the airplane to do a little bit of what we want. This is the checklist that you'll be using today to organize your aircraft operation. Basically, it includes a pre-flight inspection and aircraft acceptance check, which shows you how to inspect.
After the briefing is completed, we get our dispatch sheet and head out to the airplane. Things are starting to get real now.
This is our Cessna 172. It is a November model. It was produced in 1978. It's a 160 horsepower carbureted Lycoming 0320 engine on the front here. That'll be pulling us along today. So when we typically come out to the airplane, we start looking at the airplane as we walk up to it. We're looking for anything out of the ordinary, a flat tire, a bent wing.
Since this is my first lesson, Derek spends a lot of time showing me how to properly pre-flight the aircraft. During pre-flight, we check all of the aircraft systems to make sure the flying machine is safe for flight. Rule number 1, never take a machine into the air unless you are satisfied it will fly.
Out in there, and we're gonna take a fuel sample from it.
How much do we take?
About an inch. We'll lift it straight up, and we'll make sure that we have between 5 and 6 quarts in the engine.
Okay. One of the things we are also looking at during pre-flight is the sky. I'm about to take this Cessna 172 Skyhawk into the unforgiving sky, and I want to make sure it's a relatively safe place to be. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like the sky wants to cooperate today. The weather sucks, and the field is marginal VFR, and that means I don't think we're flying today, after all this. But I'd much rather be down here, wishing I was up there than the other way around. We'll try this again another time. Yep, Florida summers can do that to you. Let's try this again. Since we'd already briefed this flight a week prior, we just headed out to the airplane, and I did the pre-flight while Derek watched. That's the great thing about this pilot training stuff. Flight instructors create an environment where students can learn, where they can take on more and more responsibility. The instructor is there every step of the way, guiding and encouraging. As the student learns, the instructor intervenes less and less, until the student is doing everything. It's pilots making pilots. As we're getting situated into the cockpit for our first lesson, Derek covers a topic called positive exchange of flight controls. A very common feature in airplanes, especially training aircraft like our Skyhawk, is 2 full sets of flight controls. That means there are 2 yokes and 2 sets of rudder pedals. Because of this, both Derek and I need to know at all times which of us is to be actively controlling the aircraft. If there's confusion and each of us thinks we are the one flying the airplane, or worse, neither of us is flying the airplane because we think the other person is, that could lead to disaster. So Derek explains the proper procedure for transferring responsibility for the flight controls.
One thing that we can do for the passenger brief is we can discuss how we're going to interact as a flight instructor, student flight instructor. So you'll be flying the airplane today. I'll be assisting you in flying the airplane and learning the basics of flight today. So if something does go wrong during the flight, like we have an emergency, or there's a control issue, we need the aircraft control issue where I need to take controls, I'll say my controls.
Right.
You'll release the controls, take your hands and feet off the controls and say your controls, and I'll say I have the aircraft, confirming that I did take the aircraft from you.
Okay.
If I want you to take the aircraft from me, I'll say you have the controls, and you'll say I have the flight controls, and say you have the aircraft.
Okay.
And that'll be our 3-way positive transfer of flight controls.
Okay.
That way that we make sure that we know who's flying the airplane at all times. I'll let you try to do as much of the radio communications as possible as you want to immerse yourself in those radio communications.
Okay.
And whatever you feel comfortable with.
That's going to be an area that, as an amateur radio operator, I would think I would be really good at, but it's going to be an area that's going to be difficult for me.
I think you'll be great. Okay. It's going to be, I'll try to throw you as many of the radio communications as possible. And if we get our call sign 737 November Victor called out on the radio and air traffic control is looking for us, and you feel you can answer without my help, go right ahead. No problem.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right, let's get this engine running. Area clear. Ignition switch, and here we go to start the engine. Looking for 1,000 RPM. Oil pressure's coming up.
right turn southeastbound,
Hey,
cross
David,
over the
got
middle
me?
of runway 5
I
at
hear you.
midfield.
Do you hear me?
Runway 9 or left, clear for takeoff.
Alright,
I
so
got you loud and clear.
we turn this on, and there goes the engine noise.
After we've got all this done,
Beautiful.
it's time to head out to the runway.
So a typical call to any Class Delta tower facility or any air traffic control facility for that matter is going to be in this order: who you are, where you want to go, and any other pertinent information such as the ATIS code.
Okay.
So we're going to call them up and you're going to say, and you can even give them a salute and say, "Good morning, Melbourne ground. Skyhawk, November 737, November Victor, full call sign on first call.
Okay.
Is at the Atlantic Jet Center, VFR to the south, ready to taxi with information." Do you remember the information code?
Victor.
Victor. Information Victor. And then she will know that you're going to be departing to the south. She'll know which runway to send you to. She'll give you the taxi instructions, and you can read those back to her. So she'll probably say Kilo 1, runway 9 left via Kilo 1, Kilo, and you'll just say Kilo 1, Kilo to 9 left, 737 November Victor.
Alright, so Melbourne Tower, Skyhawk 737 November Victor, at Atlantic Jet, ready to taxi, departure to the south, with information Victor.
Perfect.
Okay.
Give it a shot.
Here we go. Here we go. Melbourne Tower, Skyhawk 737 November Victor, ready to taxi at Atlantic Jet, departure to the south with information Victor.
Delta 737 November Victor, Melbourne ground, good morning. Runway 9 or left, taxi via Kilo.
Runway 9 left via Kilo 737 November Victor.
That was excellent. Great job. And just remember, on initial call, they weren't Melbourne Tower. That's the Melbourne ground control frequency.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm better than that. Enough of this. Let's get to the runway and prepare to take off.
Melbourne Tower, November 737 November Victor, holding short of runway 9 left at Kilo, ready for departure. Is that good?
So 737 November Victor, Melbourne Tower, after departure, make a right turn southeastbound, pass over the middle of runway 5. Runway 9 or left, clear for takeoff.
Pass over midfield, runway 5, runway 9 or left, clear for takeoff.
Okay, let's talk for a second about this takeoff clearance. This is a diagram of the Melbourne International Airport, and I've been given takeoff clearance from 9 left. Now 9 left is being used for arrivals and departures, as well as 9 right and runway 5 right here. Tower is asking me now on takeoff to turn to the southeast towards runway 5 and cross over the midfield right here. And then I can proceed on course to the south practice area. Okay, got it? Cool. Back to the flying.
All right, 9 left, clear for takeoff. You're clear on the right. I'm going to close my window. We have our cleared on the runway checklist completed.
Okay.
Excellent radio calls, by the way.
I'm glad you think so. Alright.
All right, so as we taxi out on the runway, we're going to turn onto the center line, which is the big, fat, dashed lines down the center, just past the 9L here, which stands for runway 9 or left.
Okay. And here we go.
We'll put that center line between our knees and slowly and positively apply full power to the firewall.
Here we go. Full power.
All right, release the brakes. No brakes. Stay on the bottom of the rudders.
Airspeed's alive. Engine instruments in the green.
Cool. Everything's humming.
50 knots. And 55. A little bit of back pressure. Away we go. Looking for 73
And
knots.
gently release the back pressure a little bit so that you lower the nose and accelerate.
Okay.
And we'll keep our wings level in the climb out.
Okay.
We'll keep our ball right here that we talked about before in the center by adding a little bit of right rudder as we have a little bit of left turning tendencies and P factor into the climb.
Okay.
Here, we're at the
Number
highest
7.
power setting.
I'm looking for 73 knots. We're at about coming up on 200 feet, and I'm going to make a turn towards 5. Ready?
Yep,
we
I'm
go.
ready. When you're considering these lower altitude turns, just make sure you're clear of obstacles and other traffic.
All control towers.
Now that we're airborne, it's time to head to the practice area southeast of the field. Today's lesson is going to be all about climbs, turns, descents, and straight and level flight. Now seems like as good a time as any to remind you that this video is not flight training. Please remember that editing removes context. Feel free to open a dialogue with your own CFI regarding the content you see in this video.
All right, so let's make a right-hand turn to south. So when we make a right-hand turn, we're going to turn the aircraft about 30 degrees of bank in the direction of turn by using the yoke to turn to the right. You're already figuring it out pretty nicely. And we're going to make sure the aircraft stays coordinated in the turn to avoid slips and skids by just using a little bit of rudder pressure. A lot of instructors teach their students to lead with the rudder in the turn. I'm more of a follow with the rudder and use pressure instead of inputs. We don't want to put a fixed input in and then fixate on that rudder and keep the aircraft out of coordination as we're changing our bank. We want to apply pressures in the direction of turn with our little tippy toes so that it's nice and smooth. All right, so we're going to try some more level turns here. We're going to make some turns to compass headings, as well as I want you to make some turns to outside reference points. So right now we're headed right towards the Sebastian Inlet. Correct. We're on a heading of about 160. I want you to give me a right turn to a heading of west, and I want you to maintain a 30-degree bank turn during the entire turn while referencing outside and inside, not climbing or descending. Okay. So the proper way to turn is to turn the aircraft to the right.
Okay, here we go.
With the yoke, apply a little bit of right rudder pressure in that turn, and then bump up the power just a little bit because we're going to lose a little bit of vertical component of lift. Now, if you recall from our brief, I told you that typically what we do with an instructor-student scenario is I demonstrate first, and then I'll let you do it. But on this flight, I was going to let you do everything. Okay. Because I want you to get accustomed to flying the airplane. So that time, we should have had a little bit more back pressure in as we turn, like we talked about in the pre-brief, and you had the power in there. That was very nice. So you felt the nose kind of drop. This time I want you to turn left back to south, and I want you to hold a little bit of back pressure in there, increase the power about 50 RPM as you turn to a heading of south.
Okay, here we go.
That little bit of back pressure will help you hold that altitude as you lose that vertical component of lift. Roll out about half the bank angle prior to the heading you desire the rollout to be on. So if you're 30 degrees of bank, you're going to roll out about 15 degrees prior to your desired heading.
30 degrees of bank is 15 degrees. Okay,
yeah,
I was trying to understand what you meant there. Yep. All right.
Sorry,
good.
I may have not said it very clearly.
No, that's good. I like that. That's a good way to think about it.
So
if you're in, so if I'm in 60 degrees of bank, I want to start pulling out about 30 degrees.
That's correct.
Okay.
All right, so a little bit of right rudder in there to keep the nose straight, and make sure you're picking something outside to continue, like that matches up with the heading that you're trying to stay on, so the airplane stays on the same flight path. Okay. So see the Sebastian River, the base of the Sebastian River over there? Yep. Kind of head towards that, a little bit right of the Sebastian Airport. Hotel East traffic out of Scott over Barefoot Bay, 2,500 southbound. We're going to be turning eastbound towards the shoreline. Hotel East, India South.
So here you hear Derek talking about the different practice areas, Hotel East, India South. I'll go over those in a future episode, but just know that there are designated practice areas, and we have a designated frequency that we use to communicate with other aircraft in the area. In this part of the lesson, we've moved on from just level turns to spiraling turns, climbing and descending while we turn at the same time.
It's difficult to manage the pitch, isn't it?
Yes, the pitch is the one I'm struggling with the most.
You trim it out. Use the trim to hold your elevator position so that you don't have to do so much work.
Okay.
There, now you're getting about 500 feet a minute. And, oh, my controls.
You have it. I see him. Good catch.
I thought he was coming right at us, but he was turning away from us, but that's pretty close.
He had his wings up at us, so he's hard to see against those clouds.
Right, so what just happened here? As we were turning, Derek spotted another aircraft off of our left wing. His initial assumption was that that aircraft was coming right at us. It wasn't, but he immediately took control of the aircraft and turned us away. It does emphasize the fact that I have to lean way forward when I'm doing a left-hand turn to make sure I can see forward of that high wing.
And keep your eyes outside the turn. Now the Cessna, with the high wing, you want to look into the turn as you're turning and descending or climbing. That way you're looking for traffic. That's where you're going to see him. That, when I saw that traffic, when you were turning left, I saw him right here.
Right.
We're just curious about the cell towards the south. Do you know how long it's going to take?
All right, go ahead and keep that spiral going to 1,000, and then whatever heading you are, go ahead and level off and roll out simultaneously by rolling left, pitching up, and adding power to cruise power, and then we'll make a turn after we get stabilized back towards the airport.
Okay.
A little fast, so a little pitch up.
100 feet to go. And leveling off.
Nice view of the beach here.
Ready.
All right, start your level off, a little bit of power, aileron, pitch, goes down. Don't let that compass go above the horizon. There you go, set 23. And
It's been a good lesson, and I've learned a lot, but it's now time to head back to the airport. Let's skip ahead.
and when you get in that wet arc, flaps 20.
Kilo 1 to the ramp.
And keep that nose pointed down. When you add those flaps, it's going to pitch up.
We're 70 knots.
Yep.
There's 80.
All right, add a little bit of power. A little bit of power, 1,500 RPM. Nose down. When you add power, make sure you relax back pressure. Because that's increasing the thrust over the tail, and it's going to cause you to pitch up.
Okay.
That nose pointed right at the runway, right at the number, so we want to keep the flight path going straight towards it. That nose down. A little power. All right, now let's select flaps full.
Flaps full.
Float nose down, push the nose down.
Push the nose down.
There you go. You're doing nice. Nice job. Nose down. And I'm going to kind of talk you through this. I may have my hands with you on the controls just a little bit. If I need to take the aircraft, we'll do that, but we'll keep it going down. All right, keep it nice and stable. Less inputs is a little bit better than more.
Okay.
Nose down, point the aircraft at the runway. So we're looking for about 60 knots now as we briefed before. Nose down. Keep the flight path going right towards those numbers. A little bit of power. Add power. Power. My controls.
You have it?
I'm going to put you back on the glide path. All right, here you go. Now, your controls.
My control.
Your aircraft. Now keep it coming down. Push down. Push down. Don't push. Don't pull up. Keep it coming down. Reduce the power a little bit. Coming down. Push down. Need you to go towards the runway. Coming in. All right, now power to idle. Hold the nose level. Look down the end of the runway and pull up. Pull up. Pull up. Nice job. Right rudder. Pull up.
Ah.
Not bad.
Garbage.
First landing. It's pretty windy out there too.
Cessna 737 November Victor, turn left at Mike, then taxi Kilo 1 to the ramp. Monitor ground. Thanks for the help. Nicely done.
Left at Mike, Kilo to ground, and we'll monitor ground, point niner. 737 November Mike.
See you.
Wait, what? 737 November Mike?
737 November Mike.
Yeah. I'm gonna be a pilot. Now, before you go leaving me a comment below, I know that this is only my first lesson and I need to give myself some leeway, but I'm training to be a pilot and I want to do it right, so I am going to be my toughest critic. I do acknowledge this was a good lesson and I learned a lot, and I had a great time.
RP off.
There you go. Lesson 1 is in the logbook, and I feel like it went pretty okay. By the way, sorry about the lighting change between recording the first segment and the second. I feel like Sorry. First world problems. I want to give a quick shout out to a new audio podcast I recently stumbled upon. It's called The Plain Spoken Podcast. The host, David Bradshaw, is currently pursuing his private pilot certificate, just like me. While this YouTube channel is more focused on the experience of getting your private certificate, David and the Plain Spoken Podcast really get into the nitty-gritty, the details. It's a lot of fun, and David does a great job of explaining some of those really interesting topics. If you like audio podcasts as much as I do, you should be subscribed to the Plain Spoken Podcast. The link is in the show notes. All right, that's it for this episode of Flight Review. Derek and I hope you liked this as much as we liked making it. If so, please mash that like button right there. That helps us out a lot. And if we've earned your subscription, that would be even better. We will see you next time when Derek introduces me to slow flight, which is a lot harder than it sounds. We'll see you next time.